Hi, this is Anna, and this is Check It at the Round Table, where we discuss movies, books, music, and stuff. Today, we are discussing not having it all figured out at all. Yeah, I'm in my early 30s now, and the one thing that I have come to the conclusion of is I try to plan my life like to the nth degree. But especially in the last couple of weeks, I'm like, that does not work. You can't really plan your life, especially after the pandemic. I'm like, everything in the world that we thought was the way it was kind of just got upturned for most of us during COVID and some of us before COVID. It's like, it's just not the way it used to be. So it's like, I had this plan when I moved overseas. It was like, I'm going here. I'm going to stay for so long. Then I'm going to go here. And I'm going to get a visa. And I'm going to live there for a long time. And I'm going to end up maybe getting citizenship. And I'm going to raise my kids there. And it will be fabulous. And we will have a good life. And it will be perfect and calm. And everything will work out like this. Well, that was, my plan for the last 4 years. And then I ended up over here in Asia. And I'm like, I landed and I was like, for the first time in my life, it kind of feels like I finally fit in the world. I mean, I know that I'm not native here at all. I totally get that. I do not even speak the language fluently at all. But it's like, I really do feel like I finally somewhat fit in around people that think a little bit like I do. Not a lot, but a little bit. And I'm like, this is nice. And I'm drinking my tea and I'm looking at the mountains and I'm like, this wasn't really in the plan for a long place to be, but this is nice. So I'm like, I don't know. So I was like, this is weird. This is nice. This is peaceful. This is not where I was planning on being at all. This is not like a life goal of mine, but this is nice. And I'm going, I have never fallen in love at all. But I'm going, I don't know what falling in love feels like, but I think it feels kind of like this. You feel safe and at peace and perfectly centered and sane. And like everything is falling into place and it's perfect. And you weren't even trying to make things work. I'm like, to me, that's what falling in love should be like. I know other people have probably other definitions, but I'm going, I think I've fallen in love. I'm like, I was talking to my best friend, and I'm going, I really don't know how this is all going to work out. And I was talking to the visa people who were supposed to get me my long-term visa, and that turned out to be a bloody disaster this last week. I was like, I rarely get upset, but on National Women's Day was kind of my disaster day. And I'm like, my visa is not working out. I can get a tourist visa and do what I need to do and be there for a certain amount of time, but the student visa will not let me do what I need to do and be what I need to be, etc. So I was going, that really threw me for a loop because I'm like, I had this plan. This plan was going to work. This plan was like seamless. And I'm like, after the Vietnam disaster and that plan going awry, it's like, what do you do when your plans go awry? I'm going, for me, I think the main thing is I'm like, I sit there and for one day I was really distressed and really anxious and wanting to, you know, just throw my hands up and just go, ugh, not yell, but just go, ugh. But I'm like, I sit here and I was like, this isn't necessarily a bad thing on it. And I'm going, but it's not in the plan. And I'm going, I really wanted to have everything settled on where I'd live for the next 2 years in June. I'm going, that may not happen. I might live out of my suitcases for 2 years. I might put a suitcase in storage so I can go travel somewhere else without having to lug things, all across the universe and have my friends ship me things in batches that I can use and, deal with and, whatever. So the thing is, as I sit here and I was like, sometimes we don't need a plan. Sometimes I think, especially when we get older, it's like we're expected to have our lives all together and everything organized and put into these boxes and perfect. And I'm going, if there's one thing life has taught me, it's that life is not perfect, but it's good. And it is what we make our lives to be. So it's like, I'm sitting there going, when all this blew up with the visas, I was like, okay, most places in Asia will let me stay 30 days to 90 days, and some will give me an extension. And like Bali would give me an extension to be there 180 days if I had all my vaccinations, which I don't because I'm allergic. So I'm like, I can't do Bali right now. But I'm going, in theory, there are a lot of places that will give me a long visa. I'm going, I haven't seen much of the world. I've only been like to 3 countries. And there's a lot of the world that I could see here in the next few years while I'm finishing up my college degree, and then I can get whatever bloody visa I want without any problems. I'm like, and then I was sitting here being upset because I was like, if I push myself and add one more class, because these classes are super easy and I get them done in literally an afternoon for a week's assignments for like 2 classes, I'm like, if I push myself, I could add 3 and maybe be done in a year instead of in 2 years. I'm like, but you will hate it and you will loathe it, and you're already working like 9 to 10 hours a day teaching English, and you would rather spend that 2 years somewhere sunny by a pool where you can maybe work for 7 hours a week and do your studies and be at peace. And I'm like, yes, I would. So after recalibrating, I was going, having a plan is good, but also having the ability to sit there and go, maybe the universe wants me to go visit and explore places that I wouldn't do on my own because I am such a homebody. And it was like, I'd be okay with that. I'm like, that would be all right. So this week I looked up my travel plans. It's like I'm going to be here for a couple more months and enjoy it to the nth degree. And then I am going to go to my next destination, be there for about 3 to 6 months, depending on my visas and touristy thingies I can do. And then I'm probably going to go to the next country and stay for another 3 months and explore it, because I'm like, there's a lot to see and do. And I'm going, I wouldn't do it otherwise. And maybe the whole point of this isn't to really stress out, because I'm like, yes, I want to get my college degree. Yes, I want to be settled and have my home. But I have two storage units back in the States full of my things that are just going to sit there and percolate. And my roommate that's sending me boxes doesn't really care when she sends the boxes. So I'm like, it'll be okay. And so I'm going, there's really no rush to figure any of it bloody out, except where I need to go after, May. And I'm like, I have that figured out. I have my plane ticket sorted. I have my apartment that I'm going to be in. I have where I'm going to go for my first month, second month, third month. It's all taken care of. I'm like, maybe you don't have to live life like a year ahead of yourself. Maybe just focus on living life in the present moment right where you're at. And because of that, it's like, I have worked really hard this week, but I also have taken time to sit there and go, I'm going to go get more tea. And I'm going to go look at the mountains 3 times a day. And I'm going to peek out my window more often, because I will only be here for 2 more months. And I know myself, I will regret not doing those things. So I think that's the thing that I've learned most this week. And through this whole process of having things not really work out the way that you thought they would, but realizing that maybe that's the way they should work out. Because I think a lot of times in some of my most disastrous situations I've been in my entire life, like literally like pivotal disaster moments, have been the moments that I've sit there and realized that if it hadn't been the disaster, I probably wouldn't have done X, Y, or Z. So I'm like, I'm not glad for things going wrong or not working out the way that I hoped they would. But I am very glad for what that has led me to do in my life, and how that has helped me to be more flexible when I tend to be a pretty inflexible person when it comes to my life plans. So I'm like, I'm really glad for that aspect. And again, I don't know if that will be helpful for you peeps, but if you've had any kind of thing like I've been facing in the last few weeks with like everything going topsy turvy and sitting there going, what am I bloody hell going to do? I hardly ever say hell, but I'm just saying it's been kind of one of those couple of weeks. I'm like, that's how I kind of came to terms with the whole deal. And now I'm going to go have my meat onion pastry, which I hope isn't pork, but tastes fabulous. And I'm going to go watch Boston Babe and maybe 2 weeks' notice before I make my notes and head to bed for my first weekend off in a while. I'm like, I do have assignments and my Korean lessons to study for and taxes, but still, it's more of a weekend off than I've had in a long while. Check it at the round table. I hope you have a great weekend too. Bye.